Hello, bonsoir, and welcome to the Get French Football News Show. I'm your host, Nathan Staples, and joining me this week are Spanish football journalist David Cartledge and GFFN writers Eric Devin and Philippe Bargil. We will also be joined by freelance football writer Robin Berner and football hipster podcast host Chris Carpenter late in the show. Well, just like this show, Liga is hotting up with only 10 games to go of the season. Excuse me. But there's a big moment in the midweek for Paris Saint-Germain. Can they finish off the job that they started 2 weeks ago? Or can the famed Catalan club rise from the ashes at the Camp Nou? All of this and a big look at the relegation battle that's building up in France after the latest headlines. Bordeaux and Lyon got the weekend off to an energetic start, playing a combative and controversial 1-1 draw at the Stade Mahmoud Al-Antique. While Saturday's early match saw Paris Saint-Germain host Nancy, scraping a 1-0 win that saw the visitors hit the post late on. In the multiplex, goals were at a premium, except in Normandy, where Angers won their fifth straight in all competitions, topping Caen 3-2. Saint-Etienne and Bastia played to a scoreless draw in Corsica. Nice won 1-0 at Dijon, while Metz hosted Rennes and Guingamp travelled to Montpellier in a pair of matches that ended 1-1. Sunday's early match had Marseille shifting into top gear against a hapless Lorient, winning 4-1 against the division's bottom side to gain ground on their European rivals. Toulouse perhaps could have shown more ambition hosting Lille, but had the chance to win late on, but Martin Braithwaite's penalty was saved by Enyama to see the match finish 1-1. Nantes' trip to Monaco rounded off the weekend, and youngster Kylian Mbappé was among the goal scorers again as he notched a brace in a 4-0 win. In Ligue 2, Reims and Lens both won away from home and move into second and third respectively, whilst Brest's shock loss to Ajaccio saw the leaders drop points for the third time in 4 matches. And that's all for the news, but remember, head on over to our website at www.getfootballnewsfrance.com and follow us on Twitter at GFFN for more of our latest news. We start this week in the capital as Paris Saint-Germain prepare for their biggest game of the season. They prepared for that night in the Camp Nou with a tentative 1-0 win over Nancy. Philip, focusing on that game at the weekend first, was it a little too close to comfort against a side fighting against relegation?
It was. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I wasn't quite sure about the mic issues. Sorry. It was a bit too much PSG in Ligue 1 type with not a lot of passing, intricate passing between the lines, and basically Nancy holding firm was a very defensive performance, just like every other side that comes to the Parc des Princes, and the goal came in after 10 minutes. Like I've said on many occasions this season, it's not that hard to defend well against PSG. It's just that some teams haven't managed to defend well against PSG, but. They are accustomed to teams sitting back. They're not exactly accustomed to teams having a go at them, and I do believe this is what's going to happen on Wednesday. So yeah, interesting all round. Not a great game to watch, but interesting all round to see what happens, what will happen. First of all, how Barcelona will react, and how the game will evolve, and how Unai will be able to change that, because he will see Barcelona's resurgence coming. I mean, we are talking about 4 goals; it's quite big, and it would take something special. But yeah, it's one to watch, definitely.
Yeah, and it was nice to see Gonzalo Guedes get his debut at the start of this game as well. But
his performance.
Sorry, I think you're cutting out there, Philip. That's fine. I'm going to bring on our guest now, and that's David Cartledge, who's come to talk about their opponents in midweek in Barcelona. David, thank you for coming on.
No problem. Nice to join you guys.
So they had ideal preparation to summarise that they need 5 goals in this game in midweek with a 5-0 win against Celta Vigo. How did Barcelona fare in La Liga in the weekend?
Yeah, I think ever since the PSG defeat, there's been I think initially there was a period of mourning in Barcelona, and then they've had to react to that. As great clubs do, you have to react. And I mean, if you look at how they've performed since being defeated by PSG, they've won by a 15-3 aggregate score over 4 games. So that's a good way to come into this game. And the 5-0 over Celta, who are an impressive side, they're a good little side, in Spain. They're not, a team that you can just hammer every now and then, so it was impressive from Barcelona, and they come in this, they've had the perfect warm for this.
Yeah, and they've been slowly building back up form as they've slowly crept up into that top position while other teams have maybe had a little bit of a slip up. But there was issues in the midfield in this game against Paris Saint-Germain 3 weeks ago with the starting likes of Andre Gomes as well, who particularly unimpressed. Is there a plan maybe to change that in this game, or maybe go for a more attacking sense, or do you see Luis Enrique maybe sticking to similar tactics that he had in that 4-0 drubbing?
I mean, it's Luis Enrique, so I wouldn't expect anything too wild in terms of changes. I just think there will be more. It's a Camp Nou. It's potentially Luis Enrique's it is Luis Enrique's final night. Potentially a European night as a Barcelona coach. So it's big. There's a lot put on it. And the Camp Nou will be. I think it's a pretty hollow stadium at times, but for a game like this, it will be up. The atmosphere will be up. And I think if any team right now are capable of overturning this tie, then it's Barcelona.
It may be a little bit of a leading question with Enrique leaving at the end of the season. Do you think the players might rise to this occasion for him? Or is it maybe more of a case of it being their Champions League fates that pushes them onto that next level?
I actually think that they do feel a little bit bad with how things have transpired, because Luis Enrique, he's been a coach that has done a lot of work that's been... Well, I don't think it's been appreciated in Barcelona, and I think the players understand that as well. They're kind of looking at this guy now. He's walked away. He's done it at a time where he's not hanging around. He's not causing any disputes within the squad, really, open disputes, shall we say? And I think they're going to say, "Come on, let's produce one last performance for this guy," And also the fact that, look, this is Barcelona. We can't be getting knocked out at this stage of the competition. We have, they've got aspirations to win this trophy every single year, and they can't get knocked out now.
And it does lead for an interesting affair, even if it did seem like it might be over on that first leg. Eric, I want to bring you in on this as well and really talk about what PSG will be thinking heading into this one. They have that strong 4-0 lead, but they can't really afford to Barcelona to get a head of momentum on them. What's the tactics from Unai Emery in this one to try and stifle the Catalan club?
Well, it's tough to say. I think that we first have to look at what PSG's injury situation will be. Much like Barcelona, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong here, I have doubts, David, about Andres Iniesta. PSG also have a few injury issues as well. It's Adrien Rabiot, Angel Di Maria, and Thiago Motta. Now, obviously, Rabiot and Motta are very important in midfield. If PSG do want to take a more, not necessarily a negative approach, but a more cagey approach, try and hit Barcelona on the counter. Again, one goal will all but end the tie. There may still be a little bit of hope at 4-0, but getting that away goal, I think, can make a big difference. So I think we should look at PSG setting up in their customary 4-3-3. Meunier will come in for Aurier at right back. I'll probably go with Kimpembe and Silva at center backs. Maxwell, I think, is going to get a return at left back. I think he's the kind of big game player, and we haven't seen Kurzawa play consecutive matches for the most part, and with the Coupe de France having been last midweek, I think we may look at Kurzawa and Maxwell is being rotated there. So if none of that trio of players is fit, I would probably look for PSG to play a midfield trio of Verratti, Matuidi, and Pastore. Krychowiak being dropped from the weekend, and then the front three would be Cavani, Draxler, and Lucas Moura in all likelihood. So again, looking at a team has that physicality, that solidity that they need. Again, Rabiot and Motta would be nice to have in a match like this, given their more defensive nature. But I think that Verratti has shown the more he matures, the more he improves, the more he's capable of playing it as a defensive midfielder. I just want to ask you, David, can you talk a little bit about Barca's evolution to 3 at the back they've shown in recent weeks? What is the system? Is it 3-4-3? Is it 3-5-2? L'Equipe were calling it a 3-5-2 this morning. I've also seen it called a 3-4-3. Is that really going to get the best out of this team in attack, or is this just a matter of a lower quality of opposition against Sporting Gijón and Celta Vigo in the last couple matches?
Yeah, it could certainly come into play. I think that's just been tested out against those teams. It just happens to have been against those teams they've tested it out in. But yeah, I would say it's a 3-4-3. It's worked very, very well. And it's come late in the day because I think a lot of people have actually been crying out for a little bit of innovation. I mean, and this is nothing new. Somebody has played 3-4-3 across the globe somewhere before. But this is what people have asked from Luis Enrique, do something a little bit different. The players have responded to it well. And it's what's been needed at Barcelona for quite some time. Whether it will come into play against PSG will be interesting to see. Whether this game, the magnitude of it is the right time to bring it on, I'm not too sure. I think we might see classic Barca. I think the ball build up from the back, direct through midfield and into MSN's feet, and that's where they will try and win the game upon.
Yeah, and that's the most important area of the field, and that's MSN again, who were, let's say, relatively anonymous at the Parc des Princes a couple of weeks ago, and especially someone like Messi, who's unsurprisingly rebounded from that relatively poor performance to put in about 6 goals and 4 assists in his last couple of games. He's the man again, isn't he? If Barcelona can get him rolling and get the team moving again, that's when they start really piling some pressure on PSG, isn't it, David?
Yes, I mean, that's the idea behind this 3-4-3 that Luis Enrique has said. He's said to create superiority in midfield. Now, that is really important because it's the one thing I think that it's where Luis Enrique's reign has ended, I think, on the midfield, quite frankly. And the fact that he said to create superiority in midfield against PSG, this 3-4-3, is interesting because they've needed to do that for a long, long time. That's the problem. That's what happened with the Parc des Princes. They couldn't get the midfield ticking. They couldn't get the midfield into the game. And PSG were fantastic. Don't get me wrong. They really, really were. And those young kids in midfield really, really stepped up and they showed some maturity against the Barca midfield that was clueless, quite frankly. And they took advantage of that, which is fantastic to see a team do that. But I think Barcelona's got to react, and they've got to be more than MSN. MSN are fantastic. They're they might be the greatest trio in football all time. But they still need a support mechanism, and they still need a midfield.
See, this is where I think the criticism of Luis Enrique is extremely harsh, is that Barcelona's midfield didn't look all that great in the first leg, mostly due to Rakitic not playing. Had Rakitic, he was supposed to be fit, he was supposed to be starting, and I do reckon that if you had Rakitic instead of Andre Gomes, a fit Rakitic as well, and if Iniesta was a bit more fit, the whole game changes, and Rabiot doesn't own everyone, just like Verratti. Matuidi doesn't get all this freedom. I thought Busquets was playing a bit too far up at times.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And that's I don't know. I'm not saying that Luis Enrique is a bad manager. I'm not saying that Guardiola isn't the great manager that he is. But with that midfield trio, it really is not as easy to win games and get the ball to the famous MSN, who did not. I mean, who two out of those 3 players did not perform. They just weren't. It's like they just weren't there, especially Suarez. Actually Suarez and Messi. I thought Neymar had a pretty good game, but having Andre Gomes instead of Rakitic is just not the same thing. And you had Draxler running rings around Andre Gomes and Sergio Roberto. And I do well, not worry, because I'm not really that concerned with Barcelona's future, but that some of the players that are coming out of the academy aren't always going to be Messi's and Iniesta's. They are going to be some average players, and it's human nature. You can't create superstars all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been poor against Luis Enrique that that he hasn't brought through the players from La Masia like previous coaches have, but for him to do that, he has to have the quality there, and quite frankly, the quality in La Masia has died down. Before, they were very lucky; they had generations coming through, so 5-6 players in one team in one generation coming through.
Yeah.
Now they're lucky to get even one, I mean, you know, that the debate as to why is obviously for another day and probably a Spanish football podcast. But yeah, you know that this has been a big problem for them.
So yeah, that's my point. It's really not his fault. I mean,
No, absolutely not.
It was also great that Guardiola came into this place. I'm not sure what year, and had Xavi, Iniesta. He had Messi coming through. He had all these great players, and he had a great. I mean, don't get me wrong, had a great reign. He had possibly the greatest reign, especially in Europe since I've been watching football. But you know, Enrique just get a lot of stick, and you know, he's just you can only work with what you give him, what you are given, and he hasn't been given as much as his predecessors. So
No, absolutely agree. Absolutely agree.
It's just harsh on him. Really, that's what it is.
It's the problem with academy is you wish you could churn them out every year. Trust me, as a Manchester United fan, if we could only turn the back of the clock and churn out some more 92s, that'd be nice. Let's talk about very quickly, David, that defence who weren't really sparkling against the Parc des Princes, but there's one player especially, and unsurprisingly on a French podcast, that we're particularly clued up on, and that's Samuel Umtiti. How's he done in his first year in Barcelona, and obviously scored his first goal at the weekend, which was a great news for him as well. Has he settled into the side and added more solidity? Because that was a real problem area for Barcelona the season before.
Yeah, he's been phenomenal. He really has. You kind of play it down one bit. He has been absolutely phenomenal. The way he's adapted, settled in, life in Barcelona, off the field and on it as well, has been fantastic. And he looks like a player who could stay there for many, many years. You know, he could play in his 30s in Barcelona. He really does look settled there. He looks a real Barcelona player. Which is fantastic to see, you know, because, you know, they've had some bad luck with the signings. And we're talking about Andre Gomes, you know, and he's been terrible. And there's been other signings as well. They haven't really stepped up. Another guy like Digne, who's played in and out, you know. But Umtiti has been the one constant of the new signings. And in fact, just of any player at Barcelona, he's been the one constant. He's been fantastic. He's got great assurance on the ball. He's got great assurance off the ball. And the way he plays the game, he's never flustered. He's always calm. And it's wonderful to see from a young player.
Yeah, and I'm sure that will put a big smile on Eric's face being a Lyon fan as well. So we'll finish off this talk really with a prediction of what we think is going to happen. I'll start with you, Philip. What's your prediction for the game?
3-1 to Barcelona.
Eric?
I was actually going to say the same thing.
You can still say the same thing.
Yeah, we're allowed to do that on this version. Yeah, I think that Barcelona have been looking better with. I just seen the highlights from the last two matches. Have been looking better with this three at the back. I think it does get the best out of their attacking play. Gives them a little bit more superior in midfield, and I would have to agree with Philip. But I think that, you know, PSG are just too good on the counter, and even without Rabiot, Di Maria, if they don't play, I think that PSG are still too talented to get not to score once, and that's going to end the tie.
David, do you hold out any hope that Barcelona can completely turn around and make the best comeback in Champions League history?
I certainly think it's possible. I certainly think they can, but I'm going to be really boring, and I was also going to go for 3-1.
I think, were you all reading my mind?
Great mind.
Yeah, I was going to say. I was thinking of a 3-1 result. I think PSG are obviously going to slightly come off the gas because the part of the job is done, and one counter-attack sort of ends this game. But I hope at least they give it a real go, Barcelona, and give us an entertaining one for as long as they can. But thank you, David, for joining us. It's been a pleasure to have you on.
It's been great talking to you guys, and hopefully I'll come back and I'll tell you all about the great young French talents in Spain, because there's many of them.
Absolutely, and we'll be glad to have you on. If you want to follow him on Twitter at DavidJACAA, he's always a great read as well. Thank you, David.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Right, we move on to domestic action now, and that's Saint-Etienne, who are in a little bit of a slump, shall we say. There's no win in their last 5 games in all competitions, and they're slowly slipping away from those places in the Europa League, Eric. What's gone wrong for them in the last couple of weeks?
Well, I think that we're looking at a failure to purchase creative players, both in the summer and both in the winter. I know that they did bring in Jorginho from Aruca, and he's looked decent enough. But the fact of the matter is, if we look at this team, there's simply no creative fulcrum outside of Romain Hamouma. Hamouma's currently injured. I think he's still their leading scorer in the league, or maybe Varys just surpassed him.
I would
again, the point stands that a right winger is the leading scorer in the league says it all. And this team just does not have of what they need creatively. Playing Henri Saivet, again, is a lovely player, but he's never a number 10. Jordan Veretout is the same thing. They just haven't invested in a creative attacking midfielder. They haven't brought in enough cover for Robert Beric and for Alexander Soderlund. Both of those players have missed huge chunks of the season with injury. Nolan Roux, he'll give you 10 goals, but that's not enough to get Saint-Etienne to the level that they want to be. And I think that just a failure to have a more overarching transfer strategy, a failure to invest in a higher quality of player has really been their undoing. And Christophe Galtier's sides have always been solid at the back, whether it's been Baye Sall, Perrin, Florentin Pogba, Leo Lacroix look pretty decent this season as well. And they've always had that, but now that you're missing Hamouma, you're missing those attacking fullbacks, Sheikh Mbengue and Kevin Malquit right now as well. That's going to be this team's undoing it. It's really frustrating to see. And I would say also that despite Saint-Etienne giving a decent account of themselves in the Europa League, getting through those qualifying rounds, getting through the group stage, winning the group, I would say that for Liga, for this league to keep improving and keep developing, I would prefer Bordeaux to go. I would prefer Marseille to go rather than Saint-Etienne at this point in time. And I know that might seem a little bit controversial. Maybe people are accusing me of Lyon bias, but no, both of those teams, Bordeaux and Marseille, have displayed much more of an intent in terms of bringing in talented young players, giving them a chance, and playing with a more impressive attacking style than we've seen from Saint-Etienne. So it's a matter of deserving, and it's a matter of what I think they can do to have a positive impact on those competitions come next season. It's really frustrating to see, how well Saint-Etienne's defense has managed to marshal some teams on occasion. Pinching a point at PSG earlier in the season, a high point, getting some good results when they needed it, and the chips are down in those Europa League qualifiers as well. But it's just really not come off because of a lack of investment in attacking talent. Romain Hamouma is a decent player, but he's 30 or approaching 30 at this point. And Kevin Montepaquet, has never been a goal scorer, never been a creative player. He's more about using his pace, and they just haven't had that what they need in attack, and it's been frustrating to see.
Yeah, and you exampled it, but from Hamouma being the top scorer with 6, Montepaquet and Roux are on 4, Beric is on 3, and Perrin is on 3. So there's not many goals in this side is probably the best way to put it. And Philip, I wanted to pull up something that I really enjoyed a quick laugh out of Robert Beric's interview with L'Equipe earlier this week, and that him saying that he was not like Cristiano Ronaldo. He always wants to score. He shoots from wherever. However, I want to win, so I analyse the situation. He's got a good shots on target ratio, as he likes to say, but it's a shame that most of them are straight at the goalkeeper, isn't it?
Well, I think it's one part of the problem. I think some players are just not very good in front of goal. Some midfielders are just not very good at putting a decent ball in for the striker. Not especially talented at crossing the ball, and generally not a very threatening side all in all. I also think so. That's the first part of the problem, is that the quality of the players is okay for Ligue 1, but it's okay for upper mid-table. It's probably not okay for when you want to challenge for Europa League place or Champions League. The other part of the problem is that it's been 5 seasons where Saint-Etienne finished between 4th and 7th, and I have no doubt that it will be a 6th this in May, because they are 3 points of Rennes, but just can't see Rennes or Toulouse finishing above them. I do reckon there are some wins in there, but I just feel that there's a complete lack of ongoing motivation. I mean, sure, they can beat Lorient, but anybody can beat Lorient. We'll talk about this a bit later. They beat Lyon, but you don't really need extra motivation for that. I just think there's a whole place is a bit victim of the old same old. It's all about trying to get in the Champions League, failing, getting into Europa League, possibly the fans being a bit tired to be playing on a Thursday and then on a Sunday. The support doesn't waver because it's Saint-Etienne. It's one of the 2 best supported clubs in the country. So it's I think a lot of I think the whole place has become a bit dull in following the club, and that's there doesn't seem to be a lot of complaints from the faithful, because the faces are pretty much. I would complain if I were a Saint-Etienne fan, because of the lack of quality football, of investment. Sorry, and that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. And maybe they need a change of scenery. Maybe they need a couple of seasons in really mediocre mid-table seasons to actually to appreciate what they've got. But I'm with Eric on this one. I don't particularly want to see Saint-Etienne playing Europa League games next season. I would much rather see Marseille or Bordeaux, which would make for a change.
That leads to an interesting question, Eric, and that's do Saint-Etienne stick with Galtier now? It's been a good few years, and they've had reasonably good finishes, and he's never really done a bad job at all. In fact, he's done probably a great job. But is it maybe a change of scenery for him and the team, the right sort of movement towards this sort of middling out season?
Yeah, I think so. I think that there are certainly some intriguing candidates available. Frédéric Kaunts, I think, could do a good job. I think he did well at Montpellier, had the rug pulled out from under him. I think, so soon after the transfer window to get let go by Montpellier didn't make a lot of sense. He had that team play attractive, attacking football on the counter, and I think that Saint-Etienne, with that solid defense, offer a similar sort of template to what Montpellier had as well, but with a little bit of a higher quality of player. I think if you can get him a pacey striker, they look really good with Hans at the helm. As for Galtier himself, it's a shame to see this, but the fact of the matter is he hasn't. If he's the one handling the transfer business there, he hasn't done it right. His tendency for center forwards tends to be these bigger, less mobile players, whether it's a Beric, Soderlund. I know Rue is a little bit more mobile than either of them, but he doesn't tend to look for players that can play on the counter like that you necessarily want to see from a team that's so solid defensively, and that's what's behind this. That's what's bitten them, not having a quick, pacey center forward. I'm not saying they could afford someone on this level, but someone like a Lacazette or someone like that that's quick and is a good finisher as well. I know those don't grow on trees, but the fact of the matter is it's not necessarily how the money's been spent, it's what type of player the club invested in as well.
Yeah. I wish those players grew on trees. That would be ideal. But just to finish off, really, we want to send our best wishes to Vincent Pajot, who was knocked out in that game against Bastia. It was a little bit of a sickening blow, but it's great to hear that he's up and he's okay, and he should be back in a couple of weeks, it seems.
Do we think that any of those three, so Bordeaux, Marseille, and Saint-Etienne, can actually challenge Lyon in the long term? Because Lyon do have to play the Europa League now that Saint-Etienne have been knocked out. I personally don't think so. I think Lyon have a force pretty much settled, but they're only 4 points clear of Bordeaux with a game in hand. God knows when this is going to be played.
They schedule it. It's the first week of April.
Oh, good. So what do you think, Eric? Have you have force settled or no?
I think Lyon were lucky to escape with a draw against Bordeaux on Friday. I think that's the answer right there. Bordeaux are young. They do have the Coupe de France going on, but that's only 3 more matches at most. And they're young, they're hungry. There's competition for places throughout the team. Now that, especially even in center and central defense, now that Jovanovic has come in, those players are going to want to do their best to continue to impress and to push up the table. And I think we've said this time and again that in Ligue 1, the ability to put the ball in the back of the net makes the difference. And Bordeaux have that. They've been a little bit iffy at the back at times, but I think that they seem to be a little bit better now that Carrasco's back in the team. His injury spells, they hadn't done so well defensively at that point in time earlier in the season, but they look solid at the back. They look incredible going forward. Valentin Vada is a really dynamic presence in midfield. You've got that front three with Camino, Laborde, and Malcolm. And Adam Unas is another capable player as well. Jeremy Menez seems to be finding his feet a little bit more than he has in recent weeks. yeah, Bordeaux are a complete team, and I think a much more complete team, especially when you consider Lyon's defensive issues in the recent past.
Yeah, and
But they'll finish 5th.
You asked me if there was a chance, and I say yes, there is a chance. I don't think by
Okay.
any means Lyon have fourth sewn up at this point.
I actually haven't been watching enough of them to say, but I do reckon that Marseille and Saint-Etienne may have too many flaws to finish 5th.
Yeah, I would probably concur with that as well. We'll move on as we finish this week with a blockbuster relegation segment. So with 10 games to go and heading into that mid-March period where everyone gets the shaky knees, let's see who's really struggling at the bottom of the table. So joining us now is Football Hipsters podcast host Chris Carpenter, and Robin Bairner will be joining us later. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Good evening, Nathan. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you on. I'll start with your side, really, Chris, in Lorient. And they've been rooted to the bottom of the table since mid-October. And after that 4-1 defeat at the weekend to Marseille, they're 5 points adrift now. Are they doomed?
Straight off the bat, let's go in deep. It's looking likely, I have to say. I mean, I've followed them fairly closely for particularly the last couple of years. I've sort of followed them on and off for a number of years, but the most recent years it's been, I don't know whether it's been coming, but this season it really has come quickly. I had a look at the fixtures before I came on tonight and just sort of refamiliarised myself with what they got, and I saw the looming PSG fixture and I thought, crikey, that's quite the fixture to go into next after a 4-1 drubbing at home. I think they're going to have to win at least 3 of the next 6 fixtures to have any chance. I think, anything short of that, I think they're doomed. But to be honest, if I take off my my hat of supporting them, I think they are gone anyway, because I don't see where the next win's coming from. To be honest, I don't even see where the next draw's coming from at the moment.
It was suicidal defending almost at times at the weekend. I mean, there was an occasion where Zago Torre wanted about 20 minutes on the ball at the back. There was an issue with Lecomte. So that was a bit of a worry as well. Heading forward, is there any hope? I mean, there's Nancy in 2 weeks' time. Caen, they've still got to play in Bastia and Metz. Chris, is there any hope for them, really?
I think, look at those fixtures, I think they have to win. I mean, PSG, I personally think you can just write that off even now, particularly depending on what happens with the Barcelona tie. I still think PSG win that comfortably. The Nancy away game, I think, is must win. The Caen home game is must win, like 100% must win. Lyon away, can't see anything there. Montpellier, can't see anything there. And then obviously it's Metz at home, which is another must win. The trouble is there's so many fixtures that are sandwiched between that. As I said, PSG, Lyon, I think Nantes away, I can't see them winning. Bastia away, okay, Bastia not in great form themselves, but that's a few weeks down the line. It's never an easy trip to Corsica. Angers have improved. They're in line as well. The thing I have a real issue with at the moment with Lorient is not only they're getting turned over comfortably by teams, and especially at home, which obviously before the plastic pitch was removed, that was a massive equaliser. This season that's gone, and it's really shown, and they just look like a side that really don't know whether they're coming and going. You mentioned Zago Touré yesterday. I can't remember a worse performance at centre back in all the times I've watched French football. It was just appalling. And this is a side, Marseille, that I think I tweeted yesterday. They've just come off of a 5-1 battering at home, albeit against a PSG side that are in form at the moment. And to just lie down and to be 4-0 down, I mean, it could have been 8 or 9. And I just don't think, unless they win those games, the 2 games I really look at are the Nancy and Caen game. I think they have to win those back-to-back to have any hope. I think anything other than 2 wins in those games, and I just can't see them getting out of it.
Yeah,
There's also the problem of goal difference, isn't there? It almost feels like not just 5 points from the playoff place, but almost 6, because minus 29 is the worst in the league, and the only one close is Metz, and I'm not even sure they're going to be where they're going to be either.
34 goals conceded away from home this season. I mean, that is relegation form. That is really, and was it 5? I think it's 5 wins from 14 at home. You could honestly see PSG, if they get through against Barca, which I hope they will. You can see them rocking up and putting another 4 or 5 past them next weekend, and then where do they go from there? I think until they get that defence sorted out, I think they'll always score goals with sort of Makanjo and Waris are decent centre forwards. I've always quite liked Benjamin Jano. I know he's not elite centre forward, but I think he'll get you a goal or two. They've got some decent wide players, but if they can't keep the door shut, it's pointless because they can score 2 and concede 5. It's just a vicious circle at the moment.
The thing with Lorient is that it's a kind of club that has a small budget, doesn't want to get too big for itself. Had a lot of the Gourcuff effect, Christian Gourcuff, and basically didn't exactly keep them by himself. He did a very good job. He's a very good manager, but you don't feel some type of we need to save the private Lorient in this kind of way. It's like, okay, well, we'll go down and we'll probably go back up next season. It's I mean, in France it's that type of club, and I'm not quite sure the board is that devastated by the result. It doesn't. They don't seem not worried, but not as really worried like the Caen board would be in the same situation.
I wanted to piggyback off that very quickly, if I could. Chris, I want to ask, are you frustrated with the lack of reinvestment that this club have made? They made quite a bit of money from Guerrero and Dong, something to the tune of 30 million euro, I believe. But we haven't seen that back in. We've seen Steven Barrera brought in. We've seen Pabernez brought in from Bastia. We've seen Wakaso brought in. But again, none of these players are on that 5 million, 10 million euro level. They're gonna make a difference to a team battling relegation. Is that something that they should have been looking at doing, or was relegation inevitable by not reinvesting that money?
It's a massive frustration for me. I don't have pick clubs because in England I'm an Arsenal fan, and talk about reinvestment and the board. I could talk to you for hours about what clubs that I follow, and it has got a reek of that. The trouble I've got, and I think Philip made a good point now, I don't really see where Lorient are going. I don't. The project that was taken on, and as you mentioned, Gourcuff, obviously he took them on to I wouldn't say a high level, but he took them into being a comfortable mid-table side that would have a decent season, maybe flash around the European places and then fall away. This season, I don't see what the remit was other than get in low, sell high. The Ndong deal, I think they had to take the money because he's a decent midfielder. I don't know if he's any more than that. Maybe a passable midfielder, but I don't think he's elite level. And my big concern now is that you look at the 2 assets they've got. I've mentioned them already, Makanjo and Waris. Remember when they sold Abubakar? Waris and Makanjo strike me as another 2 that will be the first out the door. I'm surprised one of them didn't go in January, actually. I think maybe he would have done if they got the big bid. But I just don't see where this money's gone. There is no investment in players that could dig them out of this situation. I actually thought Pabernez was a decent signing. I thought they needed something at the back, and I thought Moreira was potentially a player that would step forward this year, and he has at some points. But there's no player that you look at in that side now and you say, okay, he's come in, he'll make the difference. And I'd love to know how much money was made available from those big sales, because it looks like what I would call a stale squad. And was it 26 players they've used this season? I can't pick out more than 2, maybe 3 players that have progressed this season. In fact, if anything, they've gone backwards.
Microphone.
None more so than Benjamin Lecomte, who obviously didn't have the greatest day on Sunday either, and he was a goalkeeper I thought would do very well. So I would love to know where this money's gone, and if it is staying in the bank, what's the point? Because they're not going to get any decent players in Ligue 2 with the money sat in the bank. So I just don't see where the project is going.
And is this where we're going to ask, did they make a mistake in sacking Ripoll? Or
massively.
Yeah, okay.
I think so. I mean, I'd be obviously you're probably more of an expert than I in truth, but I think Cassoni was a huge just an underwhelming signing. What he's trying to do doesn't seem to work. I thought Corbis was probably the best option out there. I don't know whether you guys agree, but I just Ripoll had an awful start to the season. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But he didn't strike me as a guy who would continue it forever. I saw some signs that he could get it back around, and it struck me as a bit of a knee-jerk decision. But there's knee-jerk, and then there's, in my opinion anyway, downgrading. I don't know what you guys think of that, but
I agree. I think Cassoni's got more out of the team in an attacking sense, but they're so poor at the back. I personally would have rather seen Hubert Fournier. He was another one that was in the mix. I think that he did decently at times at Lyon. He was perhaps undone by the team's transfer strategy. Probably deserves another chance at some point. Yeah, but yeah, I agree. I don't think that Cassoni keeps this team tight enough at the back to warrant his current position. I mean, there's goals in this team, especially with Ali Adair looking a little bit sharper in the last month or so. There's no reason this team should be in the position they're in. Not bottom anyway. Relegation would be a worry, but not bottom.
Fournier is a good shout as well. I agree with that. I think he was the other option and I think I'm right in saying was he available? I think there was talks, and is it something to do with his media commitments that he wasn't?
That was Corbis.
Oh, that was Corbis. Of course it was. Sorry, I get the two confused. But yeah, Fournier was the other option. Yeah, definitely.
Was back staff, but I think he wanted to bring more backroom staff, and they weren't having that bit. That was the problem. But we'll move on to another team that's fighting relegation, and in this section we'll bring in freelance football writer Robin Byrne. Welcome to the show, Robin.
Hi guys, how are you?
Good, thank you. So we'll go on this topic of Bastia now, then, who are the second bottom team at the moment, and having an astonishing run of 8 red cards in their last 9 games, which almost seems impossible. How do they turn things around? I mean, the Fioriani is a real fortress for them, and that's helped them gain a couple of points. But is that enough for them to stave off relegation this season?
Well, I don't think their home form's actually been good enough. If you look at it, they've had a whole lot of draws, and when they're playing at home, particularly against the sort of weaker teams, they really need to be winning some games. I don't think they've actually won very many games at home at all season. And I think that's been one of their major problems because, as you say, in the past, that's been a real strength for them. They've obviously got quite a bit of attacking talent, although we've seen Alan Saint-Maximin, who's been quite highly rated. He's caused a bit of a divide in the squad. We saw Gilles Sioni the other week having a bit of a go at him for suggesting that he's perhaps not effective enough. He's maybe more interested in clever dribbles and making opponents look stupid than he is in actually doing anything sort of productive at the other end of the field. And at the moment they've obviously got Enzo Crivelli out with a hamstring problem, and until they get him back, I think they're going to be in a fair bit of trouble in terms of scoring goals. So they really need to be able to start keeping 11 players on the park. Cut down the red cards and just get back to what they're good at, which is basically scrapping and just getting over the line somehow.
Yeah, and it's perennial red card master Kawasaki, who's got many of those red cards as well, it seems, this season. And as you mentioned, the 3 wins at home this season, that's not what you expect from them, but have they got the defence to hold out against teams? I mean, there's a 3-0 defeat to Angers a couple of weeks ago. There's 4-1 at Toulouse. There's a 7-0 loss in the Cup to Paris Saint-Germain. Have they got enough at the back to sort of keep teams out and show the frustration? Because they had decent games at home, at least against Monaco and Nice and Paris Saint-Germain, where they showed they could have a little bit of steel at the back there.
Yeah, they certainly showed that, but at the same time, they've struggled to get a bit of balance. And until they get that, they're going to be in a lot of trouble. I think if they just concentrate on defending, they're actually not too bad a team. But it's getting the balance of being able to defend and attack at the same time, and work out a way of getting these wins that they've been bereft of, I guess, this season. If you look at the defenders individually, I don't think they're particularly good, and they're not particularly good as a unit either. And of course, it's not been helped because Kuzak's been sent off so many times, and when he's not playing, they're just not as effective because he's obviously such an important player for them in the middle of the park in terms of breaking play up and making life difficult for opponents. So yeah, I mean, they just really need to start tightening up their discipline and finding a way of striking a balance between defence and attack. I honestly think now it's too late for them. I think they'll probably go.
And he made a great point about Kawasaki. He's best described as combative, and that's probably being a little bit complimentary in all honesty. Eric, I wanted to mention a player who I've particularly enjoyed at Bastia this season. It's probably been the main reason they're not already down, and that's Jean-Louis Leca. What a difference would it be for that team if they lost a player like him or didn't have someone like him in their ranks?
I actually think that his backup, Thomas Vincenzini, has been all right. I think that Leca to me is like Vincent Anyama light. They're both not the biggest keeper, but they have a tendency to pull off the spectacular. And I think that's, in some ways, that gives them a better reputation than they might have otherwise. That they're able to make these fantastic saves that catch the eye, that show up on highlight reels. But sometimes they can be not that great in terms of their aerial presence, not that great in terms of their positioning. And that can let them down at times. Bleck is certainly better than Vincenzini, but I don't think that his being with the team would make a huge difference at this point in time. I think that their attacking issues are much more pressing. We have to only look at the team's record with and without Crivelli. I think his injury has been a huge difference. We've seen how effective the Bastia have been in the past, playing somewhat negatively, but having a big physical outlet, and that really makes the difference, whether it was Brandao in the years past or Anthony Modeste going back a few seasons now. But it's been a formula that team have lather, rinse, repeat, and it's been really successful to have that big physical presence who can play as a lone striker. And without that, they've tried Sadio Diallo there, they've tried Florian Raspuntino there, they've tried Lenny Angis there. It just hasn't come off. And I think that the absence of the Bordeaux Loni is really what's making the difference now, more so than Leca or any other goalkeeper.
And it's, I think, saying is Vincent Anyama light is absolutely perfectly describing him. I couldn't think of a better comparison than that. Another team that are struggling down there, but they're currently in that relegation playoff spot.
If I may say something about Bastia, I think you see that this is not the exact opposite, but there really is a kind of club that want to be Corsica number one. And them being in Ligue 1 and all the Ajaccio club being in Ligue 2 while it suits them. And I think this is that's just it. They really don't want to go down. And you see a different level of I'm going to say arrogance about the place than you have at Lorient. It's really two different things, but they keep getting players sent off. So playing with 10 men every week is a bit harder than playing with 11. That's just what I wanted to mention.
It certainly doesn't help matters.
No.
We'll mention, like I said, the team in that relegation spot and that relegation playoff spot, and that's Dijon. But Robin, is it fair to say that there's a possibility for Dijon simply because they have someone like Lois Diony and Tavares that get goals? Because that can make such a difference at the bottom of the table.
Yeah, but equally, I think we see at Lorient as well. Lorient have got some goal scorers, but they're not finding the net. Tavares and Diony actually seem to have a bit of confidence about them, though, and they really seem to have a bit of sort of vivacity that perhaps the Lorient attackers are missing. And I've particularly been very taken with Diony this season. I think he's done really superbly. He's contributed so much in open play, and obviously his goals have been impressive too. Tavares is just he's a bit unorthodox, but he's finding the net too, which is obviously very useful. But yeah, I think I've really liked watching Dijon this season. They've been I've loved their attitude on the park. It's always been really quite positive. I think the weekend against Nice was perhaps a bit of an exception, but they've always had a bit of sort of bravado about them. They seem quite confident, and they'll go and take the game to opponents. They're willing to attack. They're willing to press the ball high. And yeah, I do definitely think that somebody like Lois Diony is capable of firing them out of problems. And to be honest, I'd quite like to see them pull away from the relegation zone or the relegation playoff as it is at the moment, and get away just simply because of the way they've played. It's been very attractive, and it's been a breath of fresh air for a promoted team particularly.
Yeah, and a club like that it was personified, I think, by that game in December against Conway. They were 3-0 down and a man down, and they still clawed and fought and wanted to play football and managed a 3-3 draw. And games coming up against Bastia at home, which might as well be a free hit at the moment, and then a couple of mid-table clubs to finish the season, they might just have a chance. And that pulls a couple more teams into the equation because there's not only a huge gap from those above them, Eric. And I wanted to mention Nancy, who put in an admirable performance against Paris Saint-Germain at the weekend, but came away with nothing in the end. They've scored a relatively pitiful 18 goals this season, but their defence is not too bad. They surely need to start scoring more goals, don't they, though, if they want to avoid the drop?
Yeah, I think that's the frustration with Nancy. We saw a lot of these teams affect some sort of positivity in the transfer window. Even Dijon bringing in Haddadi and the Korean guy, Kwon Hoon, I'm not sure what the name order is for Koreans, so Chang Hoon Kwon. They're attacking creative players. Haddadi's an attack-minded fullback, but I mean, what did we see from Nancy? We saw a lone player come back in. I believe they were the only club not to bring in any players at the window. I'm not sure if Caen did either. But no, Caen didn't either. But again, Nancy, they didn't make an attempt to stave off relegation. And I think that's going to be the issue. If you're relying on Anthony Cora Jr., Dale for goals, it's just not going to come off. They don't have a proven goal scorer that can be an outlet for that attack. Yeah, they're well organized in defense, whether they're playing 5 at the back or whatever, but it's not enough. And Nancy are going to be, I would say they're the most likely to end up in that playoff spot because I haven't watched them at any point this season. I've probably seen them a dozen times, 15 times. I haven't at any point watched them and said, wow, this team looks good to me. I said that about Metz. I said that about Lorient. I've even said that about Bastia when Crivelli was playing as well. I'm not sure what the diagnosis is on his injury feature, but I've never said that about Nancy. I know style's not a make or break criterion for staying up, but Nancy's aesthetic are so poor. You compare that to the way that Dijon play, and the way that other teams down there try to play. Even Caen, even Angers recently playing this 3-5-2. There's nothing of that from Nancy, and I think that because of their lack of activity in the winter window, they've really set themselves up for a big fall.
Yeah, just reminding myself, 18 goals in 28 games. That's astonishingly I can't believe that they've scored that many goals. That's ridiculous. But to a team that, Chris, some might say are maybe too big to go down or too good to go down in Lille. They've had they had a poor start to the season. They sort of recovered a little bit, but they're still middling. They got a good result against Toulouse at the weekend. Are they too good to go down?
Ask West Ham fans about that tag. No, Lille, they really intrigue me. Obviously, the Bielsa stuff is there for the future. I was having a joke with a guy I do a podcast with, John, who's a keen follower of Serie A, and he was talking about obviously when Bielsa kind of said no to Lazio on a flight, and I had this thought of him sort of frantically turning his car around on the way to sign a Lille contract and going, actually, do you know what? I won't bother. The project is exciting, but I don't know about you guys. It feels like they've tried to change too much too soon. Obviously, getting rid of Colo was a, I don't know if it's a strange decision. I suppose it was sensible given where they were going. And then bringing in Franck Passy seems sort of like a sideways move. And was it 7 players in January? I think it was 7 in one day.
Yeah, in one day. Yeah.
And granted, some of those players potentially will be decent signings. And I think I'm quite a big fan of Nicolas de Préville. Ricardo Kirchner is one that we haven't seen a lot of yet, but was very highly thought of, funnily enough, at Lazio. Benzia, the enigma that is Benzia, obviously got a goal at the weekend, but I'm not sure anyone's really sold. And I think Xhaka is the other one that people say it could be a really good signing. I'm a little bit gutted that Eder hasn't been great because he was one that I rather foolishly tipped to be quite good, and he's been pretty terrible everywhere he's been since I said it. But you look at their squad, and like you say, they look too good to go down. But the longer this goes, the longer this run goes, you do wonder, are they going to accumulate enough points? I think the game with Bastia in 3 weeks is huge. Obviously, they got Nancy away next, which is equally huge. Hosting Marseille, you just never know what you're going to get with Marseille, do you? So I suppose that could be one that you could put down to a pick'em. And then after that Bastia game, Monaco and Nice back to back. I'm much like Lorient. I think they need to win those two biggies, which for me are Nancy and Bastia, and they just strike me as a little bit bipolar at the moment. And they don't seem to score a lot of goals. I don't know what the actual how many have they scored this season? Was it 27?
Yes, I think
It's not a huge amount of goals, is it? And that's kind of my worry. -9 goal difference as well is not ideal. So I think they probably are just about too good to go down. But it's not because of how good they are. It's more about the teams that are worse than them rather than the other way around, I think.
Plus, the wait and see effect.
Yeah.
Check out El Ghazi. They look quite good. So just I think we'll see their true value at the beginning of the of next season.
Check is only on loan now.
Yeah, that's true. And if Bielsa comes in,
go on.
I was just going to say, if Bielsa comes in, I don't know what the financial situation is with the players they brought in now, but has he had a say in these signings, or is he going to come in and say, no, I want a whole new squad? Because you know what he's like with regards to how he sets things up and how he plays. It's only one way. So is he going to look at this squad and go, actually, we need to strip this all away again? If so, what was the point?
I have a feeling he might have had a little bit of a say in it. I think
you might be right.
Yeah, we'll quickly go through the final two teams that we'll say from Montpellier might be just about safe enough now. But Robin, I wanted to talk about Metz, who've recovered really fashionably in the last couple of weeks, and that's mainly down to their January signing Sheikh Diabate, who scored 5 in 6 games. He's been an absolutely massive difference for this club, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's been outstanding. He's a sort of ungainly striker, but he's a guy who's going to score goals. And when you're down at the bottom of the table, you really need somebody who's just going to put the ball in the net. He doesn't look particularly pretty. He'll do some really daft stuff at times, but he will get goals, and he's certainly proven himself to be a bit more effective than Mevlut Erding at that. And he will just keep scoring goals too. If he gets chances, he'll score. And that, I think that's going to make the difference for Metz. I don't see them getting drawn too much into the relegation dogfight now, particularly after they had that 2-point penalty taken away from them at the end of last week. That was a real bonus for them too.
Yeah, absolutely massive to get that out of the way. And Diabate sometimes looks like Bambi on ice sometimes when he's playing football, but it's effective, if not beautiful at least. But finally, Caen, who are another side that have some interesting attacking players, really, Philip, and they tend to put on little runs of 1-0 wins that get them back out of trouble. But could they sink back in?
They are so strange. At the start, shall we say, after a third of the season, there was this showing by the fans saying that the players weren't giving enough. Then they beat Nice, which was an absolutely shocking result, and then they go on and have some couple of quite terrible results, and they're then actually not in some kind of a rut, because they had 3 defeats in a row in February. So Bordeaux, Dijon, and Lille, scoring no goals, conceding 7, which is pretty bad. And then you've got 2 wins in a row out of nowhere, winning at Saint-Etienne, being quite solid, having Saint-Etienne and Rodelin not playing too badly, and then you've got this defeat against Angers. It's like it's a coin toss between if they're going to win or not. I mean, this side quite rarely draws, just 4 draws in 28 games. That has to be. I'm not sure if it's the lowest in the actually. I believe Lorient has the same or equal lowest, because it's either win or lose. It's it's all or nothing. But I do believe that they've got the right system, playing 5-3-2 does play into their hand, especially against the big boys. Well, the thing is that they'll need to be safe before the last by the 34th match day, because the last 4 games are Marseille, Toulouse, Rennes, and a final trip to PSG, who will probably be fighting for the title by that time. So They just have to do it against the small sides as well, and they're just not doing that. It was proven against Angers, so there's still a very, very big chance that they won't go down. Saying this, I do not think any side above Caen are at all concerned by relegation. I think more than 30 points at this stage is more than enough to stay up.
Yeah, that's absolutely where the cut-off point looks to be, as it's slowly going into that last third of the season. Just very quickly, I'm going to go with predictions then. So, Robin, who are your bottom two and who's going to be in the relegation playoff?
The bottom two will be as they are now, so I'm going to go for Lorient and Bastia, and in the playoff will be Nancy, and they will win the playoff.
Chris?
Lorient, sigh. Lorient for me. I actually think Caen are in real trouble. I think they'll go. And I think in the playoff, I'm going to say Nancy at a push.
Eric?
Current bottom two and Nancy, and the playoff depends who they get. If they get someone like Reims, Troyes, that have a decent attack, I could see them losing the playoff as well.
Philip?
Current bottom two and Metz, and I'm pretty sure they win the playoff, no matter who is it against.
I'm going to go for the clean sweep for Lorient as well, and probably Bastia look cut adrift in Nancy to lose a playoff, I think, to whoever they play. I think whoever they end up playing, maybe a bit too confident, bit more adventurous up front, and that might see them struggle. That's all that we have time for this week. My thanks to Robin, Chris, David, Eric, Philip, and to everyone listening at home. Join us for the preview show hosted by Eric on Thursday, and we will see you here at the same time, same place next week. À bientôt, and goodbye.